Okay, hello everyone. I am Lisa Twilley. I'm the director of the Women's Business Center here at Maryland Capital Enterprises. Just to give you a little information about us and what we do, Maryland Capital, also known as MCE, is a nonprofit based here in Salisbury. We also have an office in Baltimore. We cover the entire Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. We provide services to entrepreneurs, people that are either getting started in business or already in business and trying to expand. We do business consulting, marketing consulting, workshop classes such as this. And we also do micro and small business loans. So I will put my contact information in the chat. That way, if anybody needs any assistance, you can please reach out to me. We also have my coworkers on here as well. Marvin Jenkins, if you see him, say hi. Say hi, Bungie. So he's on here as well, so you can reach out to either one of us can help you. Today we have Maxine Whitelock with us, and she is the owner of Max's Taxes, and she's been doing classes for us for quite some time. And we appreciate her expertise. And I'm going to let her tell you a little more about herself and go ahead and get started.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Maxine Whitelock, and I am doing this class for you guys on basic QuickBooks understanding. This is QuickBooks Online. Our practice here has been here in Stevensville for about 9 years. I'm a CPA. We have a small group of people here but we've used somewhere around 400 to 500 clients, somewhere around 75 businesses, and I have set up, I can't tell you how many QuickBooks Online systems, how many times we've gone through, found little mistakes by clients, big mistakes. So this will hopefully help you just get a good feel for what QuickBooks Online looks like. We're not going to be able to cover everything in 3 hours, but we're going to give you as much information as we can. Hopefully as the class goes on, if there's any issues, please, I think there's a raise your hand button on here. I'm not an expert on the Zoom, so please feel free. Lisa will be right there to help us get through this. And I'm hoping to leave at least 10 minutes at the end of each class, so give us a little bit of time for questions, because we're going to cover a lot of materials in a short amount of time, and you're going to touch on a lot of things. If you get something that's really you don't understand or you want better clarity on, please let me know, and I will try to answer all those questions at the end. So I am going to get started and move my beautiful face off of there. So what you're looking at, and you should be able to see my screen, please let me know if you're not seeing the screen, but you're going to see a screen here of QuickBooks. This is just the home page of the QuickBooks system. This basically gives you a little feel for what QuickBooks Online looks like and what we see as a whole. You're seeing Craig's designer systems, you're seeing some information on the side, different types of items that you may go through, payroll, reports, taxes. Your front screen, you're given a little bit of a profit and loss statement, an expense, invoices, bank accounts, and sales. This screen is completely customizable, so depending on what type of business you're running, you can change how this looks, move things around, edit it. You can click into any item on that main dashboard and go see more details about what you're looking at. But for today, again, we're just going to go on overview. We're really just not going to go deep into this data until tomorrow, but we're going to focus right now on just how all of this comes in play. So one of the first things I wanted to take you to is the gear icon over here. And this gear icon basically gives you a listing of what your company's got going on. So you'll see your company here, accounts, managers, QuickBooks Labs. It gives you a set of lists and a set of tools. So my hope today is to kind of go through as many of these functionalities, and as you can see, it looks like a lot of functionalities, but I want to go through some of those functionalities and actually show you what you're seeing from a QuickBooks standpoint. So we're going to start with account and settings. And in the account and settings page, you'll see here that you've got on the left-hand side, you'll see that you have a company, you have usage, sales, expenses, time, advances. This account and settings is basically your very base setup. If you're a brand new business owner and you need to start a company, and the very first time you're going to QuickBooks, this is how you would see and where you would start with it. You would start with your company's name, things like logos. So we're going to create a company here and I can get to where I thought I had added all of this stuff very quickly. We're going to go through QuickBooks training. And we're going to start a little company here called the Avengers Landscaping Service. So we're going to save this logo, and we're going to go in and change that name for the company so that we're giving them so that little, just that simple adding of a logo, adding in a name, and then adding in your EIN. We've got a made up EIN for today, but typically most clients are going to have their EIN from the IRS, which is going to give them guidance as to what type of company they are, who they are. I'm going to take you out of here just so you can see what that looks like now with the refresh. And as you see, now that we've refreshed the system, we're now looking at the Avengers Landscaping Services. So very easy to set that up, very easy to get your logo out there, very easy to get your name. I'm going to go back in and we're going to do a little bit more information. So that's the company name. We've added that EIN in. The next part of that setup is figure out what type of company you are. So at this stage, you're looking at your tax forms. Tax forms basically just gives you a guidance as to what kind of company, which is what we specialize in, what type of company are you? Are you a sole proprietor? Are you an individual running your business by yourself and there are no other employees, or just a small organization? Are you a partnership? It says partnership and LLCs, but an LLC can be more than one type of company, but this would be one of the places if you were a basic partnership, you and another partner, you're a 50% owner in a company. This is where you would choose this kind of information. Other options is an S Corp. So for today's training, we're going to do an S Corp, and that S Corp is going to be, because what we want to do is a small business, but we're doing a small business that's going to go through the IRS and do an S election. That's a specialty type of business. Other options are corporation and not-for-profit. If for some reason you set this up with an accountant, you set it up on your own and you're not sure, this is where you would obviously pick a not sure. But the wonderful thing about being able to go through QuickBooks Online and making these decisions is it's going to help guide you. It's going to do things like setting up your chart of accounts. It's going to give you guidance on what type of expenses and income you should be seeing and what your financials look like. And that's the biggest part of QuickBooks support and help. So we're going to say landscaping and see if we get something in there. So as again, you'll see that they have landscaping services. They have many options in here. You can choose what type of company you're doing, obviously based on what you're setting up, but this is what we're going to do for today. That's landscaping services. Now the next section is the contact information. Now with the contact information, this is the information, as you can see, where it says one customer facing email and then regular email. At this time, we're not changing this because this is a sample company by QuickBooks. We're going to let that stand. But typically in here, you would put in whatever your email address is. So if you've gone and you've gotten a website set up, you've gotten emails going, you would just put in that basic company email. With that, you can have more than one email. So let's say you have a personal email that you're setting the company up, but your company-facing email is something different. You absolutely can go in and do a separate email just for the customer. So if you've got one email that you're using for the company that is going to be internal to you and your employees, or internal to you and other people in your company, you can do that. And then for the customers, they may see a different email address as well. And that's an option they have there. Obviously, company phone, you can put a company phone in there. We're going to just put in my cell phone. Again, this is just so you can see websites, again, if you have that. And once all of this information is in there, you'll see where this shows up as we're going further on the training. Another item, of course, is your address. Just legal address, company address. One of the wonderful things about QuickBooks is they give you plenty of options where things may face the customer as one way. So you may have a PO box that you want your customers to see, but your actual mailing address and your legal address may be your home address if you're running a very small business. So this allows you to have, your customers may only ever see, you know, Avengers at, gmail.com, but you may actually have your own personal name attached to this business, or a partner's name, or a bookkeeper attached for the legal information on there. So at this point, we're going to finish this and we're going to hit done. And I'm going to go through this. So now back to the main page. Of course, you can see all of the information that we've updated. Again, our landscaping, our logos are there now. When we send out any invoices or any of that information, they're going to go with the information we just added in. Let's go on to the next step. So our next thing is usage. The tab in usage really just gives you a feeling for how many people you have on the system and how much information you're able to use, depending on what type of system you have. The QuickBooks has a couple different levels of systems. I'm not selling QuickBooks, I'm just telling you that you can have the very basic self-employed version to an enterprise version. Depending on that type of system, it's going to tell you how many billable users you can have. Right now in this, it basically says we have the ability to add 5 people in. That means 5 different people can go into your system at any one point and see the current data. They're going to see everything in real time. You're not going to have to update, send an accountant's copy or any of that information back and forth. You absolutely can use it at a real time. Chart of accounts is going to be what type of accounts are you booking all of your information to? Are you booking items when the landscaping business? Are you booking items into multiple accounts? You want to see that your revenue comes in. What am I doing for grass cutting versus what am I doing for bigger projects? Like let's say you have some commercial places that you're cutting grass for. You're cutting grass at a major mall and you're also cutting grass for 5 neighbors. If you want to see that revenue pulled apart, one of my old CFOs used to call it the flavor of revenue. So kind of, if you think of like the Ben & Jerry's, all the different flavors, some people want to understand the flavor of their revenue. What am I getting? Where am I making my most money? And how that's where this chart of accounts comes into play. It gives you different places where you can put those charts in, the sales in, you put in the expenses. So basically, based on this current version, it looks like you have about 250 different types of categories. And then tag groups are going to be groups where you can pull a couple different items together and tag them into that group. This is a new function, so I've not used it very much, but it's one of the things that we'll send some more information out. All right, our next step in that customization is sales. So again, one of the wonderful things with QuickBooks is you can customize this as much as you want or as little as you want. So if we look at our standard, we're going to do a preview and see what we've got going on there. So this is what our current invoice is looking like. Again, like I said, it's got that basic information in there. And as we changed, obviously you saw in the beginning when we first started the class, it said Craig's Landscape and now it's Avengers. It's going to have that information here for you to adjust in any way you want to. If we add phone numbers in, we add any of that basic information. So we're going to keep putting on this. One second, let me get out of my little. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm not sure why it won't let me back out of my invoice. There it is. Okay. All right, so the other option with this is we can actually edit that style. We can make changes to how it looks. We want to add the logo into there. We can try different colors if you want to pick a different color and how that looks. If you want to pick a different font, all options as part of it. So we're going to update a couple of those functionalities. The other side to QuickBooks, which is wonderful, this is something that we use all the time around here, is the email function. So we're able to email invoices directly to clients. We can do that from our phone, from the system, from an iPad, and you can customize that invoice to look any way you would like it to look. If you wanted to go in and have every one of these, let's make sure that this is updated here. All right, and we're going to hit done there. And then any changes we've made, that will just get updated right into that invoice. I think we just changed the lettering on there, but we'll play with that some more when we go get into more of the, back to our accounting settings. And as you can see with QuickBooks, you just click into any one of these functions and it'll take you directly to where the core data is. I wanted to kind of go through the sales forms and what else is on there. So one of the things with your sales forms is you can choose what type of payments you have. Depending what type of business you have, you may have a time where you can't be paid for 15 days. You may have times where you have to give, you want it due upon receipt. You can also set it up so if you want to send those invoices immediately, or if you want to send them as later. You have functionalities that relate to that. Do you have shipping? Now, with the service-based industry, we don't have any shipping requirements, but if you happen to have a business where you're buying products and then you're shipping it out, you can absolutely add shipping addresses to everything. It'll show where the customer, maybe the customer ordered it from one location, but they're shipping it to a different location. Again, that would go through this functionality. And anything changes you make, once you save it, the system itself will accept it and move it on to the next function. So let's say, because this is a landscaping business, maybe we allow tips. 19, update that, and then we want to allow deposits. So we want to allow our clients to give us deposits. We want to be able to put discounts on there. We want to put a service date on there, and we also want to accept tips. So we're going to hit save on this. And again, some of these functions that we're changing today will come in tomorrow when we start doing the actual showing an invoice going out, showing an invoice coming in, and how all of that functionality works. Products and services. Are you selling something that you want to be able to do a product on? Do you want to use a SKU number for that? Do you want to do price rules? These are all functionalities. Again, however you want to customize this. The wonderful thing with QuickBooks is it's going to keep giving you that ability to customize it so that we're going forward and we're able to basically set, your vision of your company is going to be different from everybody else's vision of your company. So that allows you to be able to go, with my invoices, I want everybody to be able to see a SKU number on there. I want to create my SKU number to be something specific. This works best with, of course, products again. Services, you don't typically need SKU numbers, but again, services, when you sell certain services, you want to be able to tell what type of landscaping services you're offering and see that flavor of your business. Late fees. Do you want to charge a late fee on anything? Those are, again, items that are available. In progressive invoicing. So basically right now, this will just allow you to go for a particular project. Let's say you've got a large project that you're doing and you're going to do multiple steps in that. This allows you to be able to send an invoice out with partial invoicing, obviously, so that you can do more than one invoice to the same client on the same project. Again, just functionalities in there. The message. So let's see, right now, this QuickBooks allows a standard message, but you can go in and go, okay, I want all of my customers to just be their first name or their company name. So I'm going to say, dear first name. It's going to use my standard message, your invoice is attached. Please remit payments at the earliest convenience. So let's say we want to take that out. We want our clients to go, keep changing. And we're going to go, let's say you want to make it a little bit more personal. We're going to put Maxine Whitebox at. Save that. And again, that will change the message when we go to send an invoice out. You can absolutely change reminders. You want to send invoices out automatically. You can have an automatic reminder that says that, let's say we want to put a reminder on 7 days before due date. We want to remind the client that they haven't paid us, and then on a second option on the due date. And by turning these functionalities, and these functionalities can be turned on and off. So if you have the functionality on and your customers start complaining, I'm getting 3 and 4 invoices from you a week just because the project's going on longer, I don't want to keep getting reminders, you can always turn that functionality off as soon as, if you get to that stage where you don't want to see that. We're going to move on to expenses. So expenses are going to be anything that you're paying. So we worked on all the sales. That's all the money coming in the door. This is your expenses, all your money going out. This is going to be your rent, your fuel, car payments, anything that relates to that business and the functionality of the business. We want to see those expenses. This is where I find from an accounting standpoint, we are always losing clients. Clients have so much information on their sales, but not enough information on expenses. So they end up paying more taxes than they should because they're not tracking the expenses correctly. So this is what, right now we have all the functionalities on these. But you'll see there's not as much functionality on there because with expenses, what we really just want to do is make sure we're entering the expenses. At the end of the day, the more expenses you enter in the system, the more you track those expenses, you keep copies of your receipts, those are going to make that even more. Time is one of the things we had on our list to do, but the time functionality is actually a completely separate system, so we're not going to do a lot of that on today's training. I will try and see if I can get some more information and see if we can get that onto tomorrow's training. And then the advanced functionality gives you the ability for your accounting periods and other items that are more expensive. So let's say you're on a fiscal year. Let's say you're working for a school and you want to be on a July 1st to June 30th period, you would absolutely just be able to change that. You would say my fiscal period ends June 30th, and you're going to make it the same as your fiscal year. You can choose whether you're on accrual or cash-based accounting and whether you want to close your books, which I would suggest, but most clients don't generally close their books on a regular basis, but you should be closing your books every year at the end of the year, doing a final review. But let's say we want to put it on a June, you would just save that. And that way, when we run reports, the reports will be looking at a fiscal period rather than a standard calendar period. The tax form we already set on the first page, but this is another place where you can, again, set your tax forms. This is just so that QuickBooks, as it's getting the data, can classify where it should be on your tax return. The chart of accounts. So right now on our chart of accounts, we do not have any numbering on. I'm going to go out and show you what the difference is so that you understand. This is what the chart of accounts looks like right now. There we go. Okay. So your chart of accounts right now just basically lists every account you have out there. We go from your checking all the way down to all the expenses that are related to it and everything in between. That option that we were just looking at, we're going to go ahead and change that, and I'll show you what the difference is between one chart of accounts and the other. We're going back into our advanced. We're going to edit, and we're going to say we're going to enable numbers, show account numbers. We're going to hit save. And then when we're done with that functionality, we're going to go back to our chart, and we're going to refresh it. And this should show us an account number now rather than just your checking. But it looks like it did not refresh correctly. So let's go back and see why we're not showing our numbering system. Give me 1 minute. We're going to go back in here and we're going to look at that advance again and make sure it picked up. Yes, so it did not pick it up. All right, I guess our test system does not like us showing. But typically when you turn that functionality on, you would start seeing numbers on your charts rather than just seeing. If we can get this chart account. So typically if you put in an account number, right now it just says check-in. If you're some clients, if you want to be able to detail that out, you may want to create account numbers as actual numbers for each of the accounts. So your checking account might be checking 001. Then you may have multiple checking accounts. So you might have account number 002 and functionalities like that. Again, I'm not sure why the system is not allowing you to do that. Typically, that's not a big deal. It will just create numbers, and you can set those number sequences to be exactly what you would prefer. I will get you guys an example of that, so that way we're not. Let's move on. All right, back to advanced. All right, couple final things on here. Tracking classes. So classes is another way of, again, if you would like to track what type of service you're offering and being able to track that in a different way. So your chart of accounts will provide you with, let's say you do landscaping and paving services, but you want the paving information, you want a different type of expense being attached to it, you can actually come in and create a class that would give you that. So we're going to use one entire transaction. And we're also going to track location. And I'm going to make these changes so that we can. Yeah, it's not allowing me to make some of those transaction changes. So this worked great yesterday in test, but not working today. I apologize, guys. I will go back through and find out why that's not working. But again, that's another option for you. This is tracking classes versus tracking just with a general ledger account. Move on. A couple other items that are on the screen is obviously you can turn on projects, which it looks like we already have projects on. We're going to have, whether you're a US currency or a different multi-currency, QuickBooks works on all functionalities there. And then formatting. If you want to format your customers, any of those duplicate checks, things like that, these are all minor functionalities. But if you want to duplicate a journal number, these are ways of just, again, tracking that accounting detail so that you're making sure that your QuickBooks is working properly for you. I'm going to move on off of that and go back to our list. So we basically spent that whole time on just accounts and settings. We're going to move a little faster with the manage users. This is pretty straightforward. Before I showed you, you would add a user in here. So if you wanted to add an accounting firm, say you wanted to add max taxes in, you would send your accountant an invite right here. That invite would be accepted on their end, and then they will be able to see your system the same way you're looking at your system. If you have a partner, say you set yourself up, or you have a bookkeeper and you're like, well, I need my bookkeeper to look in my system as well as my partner, you would add users here. You would simply just add the user. You're going to say whether they're a standard or a company user. You're going to tell them what kind of features they're allowed to use. So let's say you want to set somebody up and they're just going to go in and do your invoicing for you. You're like, I want this person to be able to go in, log into my system, and just keep doing my invoicing so that I'm not missing any data. You would give them a standard use. You simply go through and give them what functionalities you want to give them. If you want to limit any of those, let's say we're limiting. They're just going to have customers in that, and we're just going to have them have customers. We're going to hit next, and then you would basically, again, what are the user settings? So do you want the user to add and remove users, which would be a no? Do you want this user to edit info? No, again. You would go through, and then you basically set this person up. Let's say it was Joe Smith. We're going to have Joe issue all our invoices for us. And then you would put in his email address, and then you'd simply save. And that will send Joe an email that says, hey, we've set you up in our system. Can you please go in and do that functionality? The custom forms. We started a little bit on the custom form page. I'm going to try and see if we can do one custom form. So we changed a little bit of the coloring on this. We can add a little bit of the content. And again, this is just completely up to your design. I'm an accountant, so I'm not a design lover, so I'm not the person that likes changing these around. I usually leave it just the way they are set. But if you have a specific color, a specific design, the system does a really great job of that. And again, you'll get a nice custom form. This is what your customers will see. This is what you're going to process. This is how this would all go through your system. And again, for even a very small business, it makes it great so you can run a whole, you look very professional from their standpoint. We're going to just hit done down here, and we're going to move on. And once you save that, you can actually see how right now it says standard. Every time you edit it, you can actually create a new one. You don't have to have only one format. What you would do is when you get to the stage of and it may be just the functionality not here. You can add one more. Yeah, here we go. We want to make this one green. We want this functionality to be Courier. And we're going to call this my new invoice. So as you can see, they've just added a whole new invoice in there for us. What's going to happen is there's typically a standard invoice that will go out. So the functionality will work from the very first day, but if you want to customize it, you can customize those invoices to be a couple different things as you go forward. We went through the chart of accounts already. So this is your chart of accounts. Oh, the numbers now are working. Our numbers are now here. This was just, like I said before, with the numbering feature. I guess QuickBooks is just on a very slow boat today. The numbering feature for some of my clients that use this, typically they're working for government entities. They want to be able to track their data and different types of expenses. And so they do that by a number function. Our numbers are here, but now it won't let me click in to actually edit those numbers. So I will go back and make sure we can get that resolved before tomorrow's training. So the next thing I wanted to go through is I wanted to go through our listing. So again, as you can see, some of the functionality that's here was already in different places. So QuickBooks gives you several places to find data. So I get clients all the time like, I don't know how you did that, how to go there. I'm like, typically with QuickBooks, you can click into multiple areas and find the same data. The reason they do that is they want accessibility to be easy for you to be able to find. So chart of accounts, we've talked about a couple different times. Let's go through some of these other functionalities. We've got recurring transactions. So let's say your rent, which is every month, is the same amount every month. We want to go and we want to set up that rent. As you can see, we have one already set here that says we've set our hall properties at $900. How the system will do that is on the first of every month, it's going to create a new one. But every month, it's going to go in and create a new one, whether you're paying them by check, whether you're scheduling a payment, whether you're transferring money, Zelling that money, it's going to go in every month. Telephone bill is the other one they put on here. But typically, we'd be looking at bills that are the same amount each month, not really bills that are recurring that may be changing. But if, let's say, you put a recurring bill in there and it changes every month, like your phone bill, you would just go in and edit that current bill when that activity happens. That was your recurring products and services. So this, again, I think we should save till tomorrow and go through in detail how to set up products and services. We talked a little bit about custom forms, payment methods. I'm just going to give you a little. So the payment method just goes through and shows you what type of payments you are willing to accept and how that can work. And those payments can actually come straight through QuickBooks, so you can attach in your invoice that we accept all of these types of payments. Again, a functionality that I'm going to show you in greater detail. We talked a little bit about terms. You can set a standard term for all your invoices, or you can pick the term as you're doing each invoice. Attachments. So attachments is one of the newer functions QuickBooks is offering. And those attachments are things like when you go in and you have an expense, if you'd like to attach you want to attach a receipt, or let's say you have a proposal, you go out and you're looking at Arundel Mills and you're issue them a proposal of $25,000 to cut all their grass, add new trees in, new landscaping, and they decide, yep, we want to do everything except for this little piece. You can attach that in that original proposal back to them so that they can see, here's the proposal we signed, here's the agreement we've both agreed to with each invoice that you send out. So this is a wonderful way to add attachments into your system. Again, tax is a fairly new system item that I'm not as familiarized with. Let me take a little more look into that. And then custom fields is going to be if you want to customize something that, let's say, your industry specific. On one specific item, you want all of your invoices to have a certain item listed in there. You can absolutely go in and customize it. Let's say you issue purchase orders for every item. Again, these are items, these are things that you can customize and add them to the field of your forms. I want to go back to our gear icon again. So we looked a little bit at all of the stuff under your company. We've looked at lists. We've got products and services, recurring transactions, attachments, and tags, all of the items we've looked at. Let's do a little bit on tools. Again, today is mostly about overviewing, just kind of seeing the system and where all of these functionalities stand. Tomorrow, what I'd like to do is go through and go in detail. We'll actually create transactions. We'll go through the banking system. We'll actually show you invoices. We'll send a couple dummy invoices out. We'll show a couple payments being paid. We'll walk through some projects again, and then walk through some reports on that last day and any open questions that you guys have that you don't believe. So obviously, QuickBooks allows you to order checks right from the system if you need to order checks. Not very many people use the check functionality anymore, but importing data. This is going to be, if currently you're doing this right now in Excel and you want to get QuickBooks, you're going through this training class and you're like, I absolutely need QuickBooks. It looks like it's something that will be helpful to me. We can import that data. That data can go from an Excel spreadsheet right into QuickBooks and give you an update. If you have a desktop QuickBooks version, it gives you the opportunity to do that. So you have a standalone QuickBooks version that you bought years and years ago on an old PC, but this QuickBooks Online looks fabulous. You want to use this. Again, this is another way to bring all that data in. Exporting data. This is, of course, if you need this functionality. Let's say I had a client that we pulled in inventory. The inventory file that they pulled in was corrupted, so we had to actually export the data, clean the file up in Excel, and then re-import it into QuickBooks. This is that functionality here. Reconciling. Let's click that on. We're going to go through, So one of the functionalities that I think that most clients do not do, even when they run QuickBooks, is they don't actually go in and reconcile their bank account. The functionality of reconciling your bank account is really trying to understand, did you capture all the data? Their ending date was August 31st. We're going to see what kind of data is in here. So by reconciling your bank accounts each month, you're going to see all the transactions that are here. And the biggest concern that I usually find when we're going through our QuickBooks clients is that they have old data in here. They have something from May. That $300, let's say, never got issued. They intended to issue it. They never issued it. They put it in the system and they've just forgotten about it. When you go in and reconcile your bank accounts, you're going to be able to see what data is here and what maybe. I have another client that constantly, they have issues with duplication. They'll duplicate an invoice and not realize they sent out two of the same invoices for the same client. One of the ways that, again, reconciling your accounts will go through and help you find that. And reconciliation is very straightforward. You're basically going to go in and say, did I see Bob's Burger Joint? And that's going to say yes, and did I not? Did I see this insurance bill? You're going to click, and at the stage where you get to the point where all of your activity is correct, it's going to give you a green up here with 0 differences. So right now, we're just looking at random expenses, random activity. We're going through and saying, okay, this is what our bank account should be. But typically, once you have that bank statement in front of you, you can go through and reconcile this data. Let's say we're going to select all of these. And this says we're still off by $1,000. That's, again, what this reconciliation function is. It's trying to show you, hey, if everything that was in your system is correct, you should show green and 0. And we're going to save this for later, and we're going to come back and finish reconciling that at a different point. One of the other functionalities in here is it'll also show you the history of reconciliations, any reconciliations that were done to this account of late, or if there was any ever done, if there was a summary of reconciliations. As you can see, the Avengers landscaping system has never reconciled anything. So we're not good clients either. We're not reconciling like we should be. Budgeting is another functionality. We could add a budget very quickly in here just to show you what that looks like. I know most clients out there have a real concern about what are they budgeting for, what are they doing, how is their business running, and what are their concerns. So this budget functionality gives you the ability, we're going to go call this budget 1. You can absolutely take data. Let's say last year was your last great period. I'm going to make it at a quarterly interval. And we're going to say you can absolutely pre-fill this data. So you can create a budget that is you're going to go in and make that budget, or you can go in and give me the data from last year, and I want to see what that looks like. All right, last year data doesn't look like there's a lot of activity. So let's go and see what's in here for 20. There we go, a little bit more activity. And once you do that, you actually literally create budget, and that budget will be created as an option out there. And you can play with those numbers if you decide that, okay, you know what, my billable expenses should really be more like $5,000 every quarter. You simply hit, and there you go. You've got functionality for billable expenses income. Let's say you decide that your design this year was $2,250, but that design should really be going up to like $7,500. You can actually progressive, any way you want to do this will help save that data and give you a feel for what your budget. And your budget is essentially set up on the same functionality as your chart of accounts. So however you set up your chart of accounts will be how that budget comes in. So we're just going to save this dummy budget as budget 1. And what we'll do is at some point, either tomorrow or our final class on Monday, we'll show you what budget versus actual looks like in that functionality. But you just created your budget, just that simple, as that easy. And you can even run a budget overview report real quickly. That will show you, here's what you've budgeted for this period. So we're budgeting a little bit, looks like in the past and in the future, but we can always do a budget for forward forecasting rather than rear. We're going to go back into our listing. So we talked a little bit about budgeting. Audit log. Let's go through real quickly what the audit log looks like. It looks like we're coming on that last 15 minutes. All right, your audit log basically will go in and show you exactly who has been in the system. So this is really important for those of you who have multiple people in your accounting system. So let's say you've got a bookkeeper that is out in Salisbury, your practice or your business is actually mostly on the Hanover area, and then you've also got an accountant who's up in New York. Because they each have their own user IDs, when they log into that system, you'll see them logged into the system, and it will tell you what they did in each system. So let's say your bookkeeper goes in and they did something and you're there like, oh, I made a mistake, I don't want to tell you about it. You can actually go in and see that through the audit log. You'll see, oh, Joe Smith logged in on this date at this time, and here's the functionality of what they did. And it will actually, if you click into this, it will actually show you what they did, how they did it, and why. Go back and hit view. So, give me a second, of course the system is not going to let me view the detail activity. All right. But you get the basic idea. This functionality allows you to be able to go into the budgets or go into the system and see what was done on your system, when it was done, how it was done, and especially if there's somebody, and if somebody's just logging in, like, you know, let's say your bookkeeper says, I don't have time to do this, I really am not getting in there, but then you go and you can see that she's in there all the time. That's kind of, this audit log basically is a helpful place to look for data and who's on there. All right. And all of these last functionalities, the Smart Look and the Resolution Center, are just ways for you to be able to talk to QuickBooks with any questions, concerns. If you're stuck in a system and you're not sure why it's doing that, those are what these last couple options are here. And I was going to show you one more functionality that I didn't show in the beginning. Let me just do that, and then I'm going to open the floor up for questions. So one of the things you can see is this is the system that I typically look at. There is another way to look at that. You can do something called switch to business view. So one is an accountant's view, one is a business view. As an accountant, I'm always much more comfortable in that. But I know a lot of business owners, they'll go into the business view, and this is where they feel comfortable. They can see all the same information, but it just gives you, you'll see it over here that the titling is a little bit different. And they do that because they feel like some business owners are better and more comfortable with things going something as simple as customer and leads versus when we're looking at it and we are looking at vendors and sales. So it just depends. It's just a preference, and you can actually go back and forth as you want. So if we switch back to accounting view, literally the system in the background is going to do, it's going to go through, it's going to update, and it's going to show you a different view on your QuickBooks system. Again, the functionality in this system is very flexible. A little slow today, but other than that. And Lisa, while we're getting in, it looks like we're at about 12:46. Do we want to hit some questions? Do we have questions out there? Specific things that we talked about today that anybody wants to understand a little bit more or concerns?
Yes, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. You must have done a really good job of explaining everything since we don't have any questions. Anybody?
Anything anybody wants me to work on so that we have more details for tomorrow?
Very quiet.
All right.
That
well,
was
we still
awesome,
have
Maxine.
another-
Thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I put in the chat,
I-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I thought somebody else said something. It was you. I was just gonna say, I put in the chat, if they haven't registered for tomorrow's workshop, to be sure to register. That way they'll receive the Zoom link. And if you think of any questions, just write them down and ask them tomorrow. If you don't think of them right now, that's fine. So we will see you guys again, hopefully tomorrow at the same time.
Yep, awesome. And we will go through, like I said, tomorrow in greater details. We'll go through it and make sure that we do actual invoices, sales, and purchase orders so that everyone can see how those all work.
Okay, sounds good. Christina, I'll send the registration link right now for tomorrow. Oh, and Maxine,
Okay.
I got that information that you sent. You want us to send that out when we send the recording, correct?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. That's some
Okay.
old data. I actually contacted QuickBooks, but they didn't have any current data, but this is something I had from before. This gives them some screenshots and some guidance as well.
All righty. How do I get out of here?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, there it is. Here's the link. Sorry, it took me a minute. Hopefully you got that, Christina.